Game of Thrones is a story exceptionally reliant on its characters, and with first impressions being as important as they are, I can think of few who are introduced more perfectly than Tywin. Tywin's introduction says everything we need to know about his character without actually saying anything about him at all. In the show, the scene is a conversation he has with his son Jaime about the recent capture of Ned Stark. Tywin berates Jaime for acting rashly, continuing his work butchering a deer as he speaks, informing Jaime that Lannisters aren't supposed to act like fools. Jaime responds curtly, explaining his rationale, reminding his father that his brother Tyrion was kidnapped. Tywin poses the question as to why Ned is still alive, and scoffs at Jaime's focus on public opinion when he says the kill wouldn't have been clean. This is all before he reveals to Jaime that he's giving him half of their army to raid the Vale of Arryn and rescue Tyrion. Surprised, Jaime wonders why Tywin values Tyrion's life despite his distaste for his second son. His father proclaims letting a Lannister remain in custody would sour the family's reputation, removing the fear other houses bear for the Lannisters. After a short monologue about the family name, only then does Tywin direct his full attention to his son, as he tells him
I need you to become the man you were always meant to be.
Only to return to working on his deer. This scene sets up Tywin as a character phenomenally, the deer being pivotal in this as it serves a double purpose. By watching Tywin butcher a deer, we are silently being told he is a man who can handle himself despite his age, and isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. His focus on the deer rather than his son also speaks highly on his demeanor and what he values. Tywin doesn't even care to give his firstborn son his full attention, only directing his focus when discussing the fate of their family, along with his disinterest of Tyrion's well-being past the Lannisters' public reputation. This masterfully sets up where Tywin's priorities are. Tywin put the utmost value in the Lannister name and their family's reputation. He does this even at the expense of the individuals in his own family at times, never being truly interested in them unless the Lannisters' legacy is in question. I love how much of this is set up through indirect cues we see through body language and dialogue. The audience's intelligence is respected, as you're expected to put these things together from the way he acts, rather than being beaten over the head with them. However, what I find to be the most interesting about this scene is that it is entirely a show invention, being completely absent from the books. Neither Tywin nor Jaime are point of view characters in the books. Tyrion is the only Lannister's eyes we get to see the world through in Book 1, so no scenes exist in the book with only Tywin and Jaime. Instead, in the books, we are introduced to Tywin only upon Tyrion's return from the Vale after his trial by combat. While this is a scene we do get in both show and novel, the book version is far more impactful. But after we go over it, you may understand why they felt the need to change it in the show. The show version merely serves to have Tyrion introduce the Hill tribe allies he has acquired, and to allow Bronn a quip at the end.
And here we have Bronn, son of...
You wouldn't know him.
In the book, however, Tyrion meets Tywin in the inn where he was initially captured instead of Tywin's war tent. We're given a lengthy description of Tywin taking up almost half a page. There really is a sense of weight to this scene. It feels like a full stop happens when Tywin becomes present, not only in this particular scene, but moreover the whole first book. I believe this to be a creative choice, as we only see Tywin through Tyrion's eyes, and it helps to emphasize the complex mix of reverence, respect, and distaste Tyrion has for his own father. A description of Tywin's appearance is given, surrounded with a few anecdotes giving us an insight into his personality. This is a description that we are given all before Tywin says a word, and would be impossible to convey concisely in the show. That being said, this is the only direct exposition from the narrator's perspective we are provided. Everything else is presented through Tyrion's eyes. Instead of rising and embracing his son, Tywin merely gives him a long, analyzing look, stating, "I see the rumors of your demise were unfounded." Which Tyrion replies, "Sorry to disappoint you, father." Keep in mind, this is after weeks, if not months, of Tyrion's life being in question. Tyrion walks to their side of the room and dwells on the fact that his father's judgmental gaze makes him acutely aware of his deformities. So in less than a page, we already know so much about Tyrion's tumultuous relationship with his father, and have a fairly deep insight on Tywin as a person. Tyrion continues saying, "It was kind of you to go to war on my behalf," to which his father replies, "Your brother never would have submitted to capture so meekly at the hands of a woman," to which Tyrion jokes about Jaime being taller than him. The scene is very heavy with dialogue as Tywin informs Tyrion of what has been going on in his absence. We're frequently given asides with Tyrion's thoughts and reactions to the developments of the war, further emphasizing our viewpoint through him. Many of these thoughts are things Tyrion opts not to say, and would be impossible to present via the show medium, without having Shakespearean monologues every other line. In addition, not much is happening visually in the scene either. That is, until the Hill Tribe chiefs kick the door in, and Shagga lumbers through, proceeding to snap the sword of the guard over his knee. Kevin Lannister puts a hand on his own sword, but Tywin places a hand on it to stop him, cool and collected as ever, ending the fight before it began, and asking Tyrion to introduce him. This is really where the writing shines, with two of my favorite lines from Tyrion as he describes his party. He starts with, "Shagga, son of Dolph, is the one who looks like Casterly Rock with hair," and "This is Bronn, a sellsword of no particular allegiance. He's already changed sides twice in this short time I've known him. You and him ought to get along famously, father." Afterwards, we are informed of a messenger that came in and told of the Stark host moving down the causeway. Tyrion then noted that although his father never smiled, he was able to read pleasure on his face that he now displayed. Tywin announces that the plan is to ride out and meet the Starks, further promising the Hill Tribe leaders all his son offered and more if they ride with him. The tribe leaders scoff at the idea of following orders. Yet clever and manipulating as always, Tywin boasts the fearless nature of the Starks and riles the Hill Tribe's sense of valor in meeting such an enemy, using the tribe's own rivalries amongst each other against them, exciting them to allegiance in a move that is distinctively Tywin themed, ultimately bringing the scene to an end. What I find most interesting about the changes from the novel to show is despite the fact that they are rather different scenes in both length, setting, and presentation, they achieve a very similar introduction to Tywin and his personality using different methods optimized for the particular medium. In the show, we're told so much through the body language of Tywin, and in the novel, we learn much from the narrator's description as well as Tyrion's own thoughts on his father, both methods of delivery only really making sense for the show and book respectively. While they certainly could have kept the scenes as a one-to-one from the novel, I think that would have been doing a disservice, as it's not an interaction that's particularly well suited for television. This is a great example of keeping the original intention of the scene from the book, that being to properly introduce Tywin, in a way that makes sense, is entertaining, and respects the viewer's intelligence. But what do you think? Was this a good change that fit the medium, or should it have kept more faithful to the novel?